What's up guys, Rob here with DIY Church Tech, and today we're going to be doing a video that a lot of guys have been asking for. I've been seeing it on the CMST Facebook page. People asking this one question: how do I put my lyrics on my live stream? And it sounds like a simple process, and it is once you have all the tools to make it happen. What I'm going to do is show you how to get lyrics on the live stream in two different ways, either in a picture-in-picture or what we call an overlay, superimposed over the video, just the lyrics. We're going to go over that in the OBS and Vmix, two of the most popular broadcasting softwares out there. The same concepts will apply to an ATEM switcher or any other type of video switcher. Maybe you're using a hardware switcher. The same terminology, chroma key, overlay, green screen, kind of stuff's going to apply there. The settings may be in a little bit of a different space on your device, but you know, your mileage may vary if you're not using OBS or Vmix. So before we get into it, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. I'm going to be uploading some videos to help you guys out and with this church production stuff. I know live streaming can be very confusing, but I'm going to do the best I can to help you get through it. So let's get into the middle of it. So the first thing you're going to need is a machine for your streaming, obviously a machine for your lyrics. Now I highly recommend that you have two different machines for your lyrics and for your live streaming. It makes things a whole lot easier in the long run if you have a dedicated machine for both. Now the way we get our lyrics into our streaming computer is over NDI via network. So the application that we use on this machine is called NDI Desktop. It is a free application available at vmix.com. It is Vmix NDI Desktop Capture, or Vmix Desktop Capture for NDI, whatever, same thing. You're going to install this on the machine that is your client that has your Pro Presenter, or in our point we use Proclaim. And once that's installed, you're ready to send the information over to your streaming computer. Now, if you are using a multiple monitor setup, this is where it kind of is going to be based upon your individual setup. For example, in our sanctuary, we have a dedicated output for our projector, which is going to send full graphics, so the background plus the text. Then we have what's called a lyric overlay output, which is just the lyrics. Now, this machine right now is being used for lyrics only. It only has one external output, so you have the internal monitor plus a VGA output. So we have two outputs. If you hold the mouse here, you'll see there we have two different outputs. You notice that that background is green, not transparent, and we'll talk about that in a second. So if you don't have the ability to send just your lyrics out, just the text, you're going to have to go with a picture-in-picture scenario. I'll talk about that later on the video. Let's first go over the mainstream and what you guys are all really here for, which is how to overlay your graphics into your live stream. So before we even get into Vmix and talking about how to set up in Vmix or OBS, let's look at our machine that's sending the lyrics. Whether it be Pro Presenter or Proclaim, Media Shout, Easy Worship, or even something like Microsoft PowerPoint, the settings are going to be pretty much the same on all three platforms. So if we come over here, we look at Proclaim. If I can find where my mouse is, there it is. We look at Proclaim here. We're going to go to our settings and our display settings, and we're going to work on our display settings. Now, we have two monitors on this computer. You're going to need at least 3 monitor outputs to make this work correctly. You got to have a monitor output for your control screen, which is the screen here that has all your control settings to actually program your software. You need an output for your projector, and then you need a third output for what we call, it says right here, slides foreground only. So if you're running, let's say, a confidence monitor and you're maxed out and you only have 3 outputs, you need to figure out a way to get a third output. Now, lyrics don't have to have a ton of frames per second. You can get away with like a USB to VGA adapter or a USB to HDMI adapter, and you're just going to plug a monitor into it so that it has an active output. You're not going to actually use the physical output that you're creating to send the information to Vmix. Vmix Desktop NDI Desktop Capture has to have an output that it can then clone and send over the network. It's the only thing I don't like about the Vmix Desktop Capture is it can't create, quote, a virtual output. Some machines you can trick the VGA output, like I have on this machine right now. I have it tricked to think that there's a monitor hooked up to it. I'm not going to go over that in this video because it doesn't apply to every machine. It's very machine specific. So we're just going to say you've got to have a dedicated output and a dedicated monitor to make this work. So once we figured out our monitor settings, let's say number 1 is the application, number 2 is our projector, number 3 is our confidence, and number 4 is going to be our slides foreground only. And like I said, this machine has 2, so I'm giving up my projector output, which is called slides, and I am just setting it to slides foreground only for demonstration purposes here. The next thing you're going to do is on your output transparency color, please make sure you click either green or blue. Now, if you're using a software that lets you select a very specific color, maybe on a color wheel, remember your color code. You're going to need that when you move into OBS or Vmix. So now that we've set this output to slides foreground only, we've clicked this as green. We're going to say okay. We're going to close this software here. We're going to go live. Make sure that we're live. And if I hover my mouse here, you can see that we have an output that is green background with our text there. Also that our Vmix NDI desktop is running. It is, you see, ready, 0 connection. So now that we've got this machine set up and configured, let's move over to the streaming computer and we'll show you guys how to move this lyric content into this machine and up on your live stream. This is what you're here for. So let's get into it. You see I have a source brought up here. This is an iPad right there. You can see the dog in there. It's also up on the screen, so you'll have an idea what it looks like on a broadcast. So let's come in here and let's show how we're going to add this in. So we're going to come here and we're going to go to NDI Desktop Capture. You'll see here immediately you have all the sources available. There's the iPad. There's all the outputs from this machine as well that you could bring back into as an input if you wanted to. What we're looking for here is the desktop that we created or we're using for Proclaim. In this case, that desktop with a bunch of numbers after it. You're going to want to grab displays only. On NDI Desktop Capture, you'll notice that when you start looking into it, it will tell you how many connections are actually made to the machine. NDI Desktop Capture will make available every actual window that's open. So you can see here, we have Microsoft Edge, then we have Vmix Desktop Capture NDI, we have Display 1, Display 2, Proclaim. What I have learned is that it is much more reliable to grab the actual display than to grab the quote window. Because even though the window is there, if another window opens up on top of this window, that information will show up within that output, if that makes any sense. So if you've got this window being captured and then a pop-up pops up within this window, that pop-up is going to show up. It doesn't just show this particular window. The safest bet when setting this up is to grab the physical display that you have dedicated for your lyrics. You'll see here that is display 2. So we're going to select display 2 and say okay. Now you'll see display 2 comes in green. Now if we say I want to overlay that over my video, you can't overlay it because it's green. We have to come in here and set what's called our chroma key settings. So we're going to come into Vmix and we're going to select our color. Now you can pick the color picker, which is what I just did there. And you'll see there, it'll remove almost all of it. And you're just going to sit here and play around with the sliders until you get it kind of the way you want to. So usually clicking the chroma key filter will get rid of a lot of it, and then you can sit here and adjust from that point forward to really get it down. So you'll see there's still some black bounding boxes around there. As I pull that down, it will get rid of a lot of it for me. Another thing you can do here is the anti-aliasing. And that's something you can play around with. Like I said, you just got to really play around with your settings. I brought lyrics on a computer, and then the next day brought lyrics from the same computer, and because network conditions were a little different, I've had to make some changes to the setting. So once we've got our chroma key set, you can see the background is gone. Turn the chroma key off. There's our green. Turn the chroma key on. It goes away. Now, we're ready to overlay lyrics, right? Wrong. Your lyrics are now in the middle of the screen. That's not how we want our lyrics set up. We need them set up as lower thirds. In Vmix, you accomplish that with your overlay settings. And that is done here. Now, overlay settings, it's called a downstream key. You have an upstream key and a downstream key. These are terms that apply to almost all video production software. A downstream key means that this is applied to everything downstream, meaning all your cameras, anything that you're mixing together on your video system, this is going to be applied over the final output or downstream of everything. It's kind of like on an audio mixer, the downstream key is your master bus. So think of it as if you're applying an equalizer to your master bus, you're applying that setting to every channel that runs through that master bus. Same thing goes for downstream keys. When you are applying a downstream key, you're applying it to go over every source in in this setup. So any source that you throw up as a master source, you have 4 downstream keys in Vmix, 1, 2, 3, 4, that'll show up. Now we have what's called an upstream key. Go into the upstream keys just a second after we talk about downstream key. What I'm about to show you is the main way that you're gonna overlay your lyrics on your live video streaming setup. Now, this is a preference for me. I pick number 3 as my lyric overlay. I use 1 for lower thirds. I use 2 for informational graphics, 3 for my lyrics, 4 for my little bug or branding that goes in the top right-hand corner there. You can make it 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever works for you. I just know that 1 and 2 for me get used pretty heavily. 3 and 4 are more than likely downstream keys that are turned on and pretty much left on. So let's talk about how we set up this to be a lower third on our screen instead of being full screen. Like I said, overlay settings on Vmix. You're going to click the overlay. You're going to select what overlay channel you're going to be working with. In our case, we're working on overlay number 3. You're going to make sure that it is set as a picture-in-picture. Usually fade is pretty nice. I leave that alone there, or you can just make it cut in and out. It's up to you. And now we're going to come down here to our picture-in-picture settings, and we're going to set our location. Now we want our lyrics to be in the lower part of the screen. See over here, that is represented by the blue box is your output. Your red box is the DSK or the downstream key that you are currently working on. In our case, that's overlay number 3. This is already set because I copied the settings from our computer at church. So you will just select your zoom settings here. You'll zoom in, zoom out. You can select your pan settings left or right. See, it's moving around there, and you can select your up and down. Now it takes some playing around to get used to it, but now if I come here and click on number 3, my lyrics are on my lower third, and it's that simple. It's simple, but I understand if it's something you have never done before, it can be a little bit of a process to set it up for Vmix. Now, as maybe complicated as Vmix might sound, OBS makes it even harder to do. Before we go into OBS though, I want to talk about upstream keys. We went over how to do a downstream key, which is a lyric overlay. Cool thing about Vmix is you might run out of these, right? I run out of overlays every show. I don't have enough of these, but I'm able to use what's called an upstream key. And so you might want to go about this route. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a virtual input, and that's going to be here, general, create virtual input, and it's going to create me a virtual input. And you can see there, NDI iPad, NDI virtual. Now this could be your clean shot. Maybe this is no lyrics, and this is lyrics. So the way you're going to accomplish that is you're going to come in here and go settings. You're going to come over here to multi-view, and then you're going to select which source you want to be your multi-view. And it would be NDI desktop. Now you can see that your lyrics are now on that source, just like you would do in the other settings. You're going to come over here to position. You're going to select overlay number 1, and then you're going to zoom out, and you're going to adjust where it sits on your screen, and then you're going to hit close. Now you can see that image is only on this camera now. So if we're running and we have this up, and then maybe we want to bring in, we've used all of our downstream keys and we want to bring our lyrics in, we can simply just quick play over to that one. And now our lyrics are on. And as we change lyrics on the machine over here, they will change on the screen. Now that's one way to handle it. It is kind of a preference. Like I said, you can either use the master downstream key to overlay the lyrics over the individual video, or you can add them to individual input and they'll show up on an individual input. What this is good for is lower thirds maybe, or if you have a drum cam maybe and you want to have like a special, like drum camera overlay on just that camera, then you can program that graphic to show up on just that camera. Or if you're building graphics, like the other night I had to build a graphic on the fly for our co-op. I was able to bring in a white background and then bring in a couple of text inputs and a graphic input and use the overlays to build that input on the fly in those right there. The main way that I would suggest you do this with Vmix is going about the overlay using a downstream key this way. It's much less complicated. You have less inputs to deal with. So if you have a 6-camera system and you want to have lyrics on all 6 cameras, and you go about it with an upstream key way, you've just taken your camera count or your input count from 6 cameras to 12 cameras. Depending on your hardware and how stout of a machine you have, your computer might have a hard time processing processing, 6 extra virtual inputs versus just overlaying text from an NDI source. All right, so we're gonna close Vmix and we're gonna go into OBS. And I'm gonna show you how to do the same thing in OBS, and it's a different animal, same concept, just kind of done a little differently. Okay, so we got OBS opened up. I got the iPad going here. One thing to know about OBS, it's very different from Vmix. Reason why I don't personally use OBS, because OBS does not follow any type of standard video production format or layout. If you noticed in Vmix, everything kind of showed up in a multi-view. There's ways to do that in OBS. I don't know it as well as I do Vmix. I know it just enough to kind of show you guys how to do this in OBS. But I much rather prefer Vmix over OBS. Vmix, in my opinion, is built closer to something like a NewTek video toaster or a TriCaster. It's just a more professional, laid out piece of software, and it's much more streamlined, much less resource intensive than OBS is. So let's talk about how we do things in OBS. We have things called scenes. So you have to build a scene. So we have scene number 1. We have an NDI source, which is our iPad camera. And now we're going to add in another NDI source, which we're going to name it Lyrics. We're going to say okay. Just like in Vmix, we're going to select our computer desktop number 2. We're going to say okay. Now you can see our lyrics are up and over our video. Now Vmix on their sources works just like layers in Photoshop does. So whatever the top layer is, that's going to be on top of everything. So make sure your lyrics are on the top. Now we have to remove our green screen. So we're going to click here, right click on the source, click filters. Under effects filters, we're going to hit positive, and we're going to click color key. Now the cool thing about about OBS. OBS automatically assumes you're using green, and it takes green out for you. Now just like in Vmix, you're going to have to play with the settings to get the greenness to go away, to make it disappear. Like when it first brought it in, you could tell there was a green line around everything, and you're just going to have to sit here and play around with your settings and get the feather edge feathering and everything just right so that there is no more green. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this. Oh, I screwed the filter up. Let's go back here to color key, move the smoothness down, move some more green, close. We're going to take this and move it down to the bottom of the screen, just like so. And there you go. There are your overlaid lyrics in OBS. Now, like I said, you're going to have to play around with the source to make sure it is working correctly. I still don't have the color key set right. Anyways, you guys get the idea. You can sit here for hours and play around with this and still not get it perfectly the way you want it. Here's the thing that I don't like about OBS that Vmix allows you to do. There is no downstream key or upstream key definition separated in these pieces of software. Everything is an upstream key. So I have created a scene there, and I have my lyrics there. If I want to create a scene without lyrics, I have to make a new scene. I have to come in here and I have to go back and add in my camera. We'll use an existing NDI source. Okay, you guys get the idea. So then that's my clean camera. And then if I want to bring my lyrics back up, I just rotate through my scenes like so. Okay, so let's talk about what I said. The last option, if you don't have the ability to send out just your lyrics and be able to chroma key them in, and you are running a full background like this over here, let's talk about how we're going to get those in. So the same thing as if you were working with putting your sources in. You're going to add your sources the exact same way. You're just not going to be working with the chroma key. So your source is going to show up like this, and you will just pretty much scale your lyrics down and put them in the bottom hand corner like so, so that as you come over here and change the lyrics, you'll see they'll change as you change them. And it's in the bottom corner. And for some of you guys who don't have the ability to have 3 and 4 monitors hooked to your computers, this might be the way you have to go do it. And it works the same way in Vmix. Let's close OBS. Let's open Vmix real quick, show you how to do it in Vmix again. iPad 2. By the way, guys, Vmix just works so much better than OBS. I understand that OBS is free and Vmix can cost upwards of $1,200, but it really is you get what you pay for type deal. It just works so much better. So once again, you're going to come over here to your overlay settings. You're going to pick, for my example, it'd be number 3. You're going to set where you want it, zoom it down so it fits on your screen wherever you want to put it. Let's move it over. Hit OK, and now when we put our downstream key up, number 3, they're in the bottom corner of the screen. Obviously that's way too small to be worth anything. You can make it bigger than that. Demonstration purposes, it works. So that's pretty much everything that there is to get your lyrics on live stream. If you stuck with me this long through the video, I appreciate you for watching. Hopefully this really helps some of you guys figure out how to do this. As always, if you have any questions, if you get stuck on anything, I'm here to help. Send me a message on YouTube, or find me on Google. It's Lucerne Baptist Social Media at gmail.com. LUCERNE Baptist Social Media at gmail.com. You can email me there. I will answer all your questions. I've helped a few churches get started through this whole Corona COVID-19 thing. I can help you navigate Vmix. I have preset settings that I can email you my presets for Vmix if you want to start with a pre-built setting for Vmix. Recommendations on a computer, help you get parts, build a computer, whatever you need to do to get you guys online. I want to help you guys make that happen. As always, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to get more updates when we update videos on this channel. I'm going to try to be doing some more updating pretty soon here. Thank you guys for watching. Don't put your hands in bear traps.